It's like the Hawk Tua girl. Like you try and make as much noise while you're hot.
You just compared Danny Olmo to the Hawk Tua girl?
I mean, for his agent, it's like it's his job.
We're gonna need to clip that and tweet that at Danny.
No,
Olmo.
I love that. Welcome back to Yanks Abroad. The summer tournaments are over. We are on to the club season, and today we are talking about the top 10 biggest transfer targets out right now and where we think each of them will land and why they should land there. Let's start at the top, Will. Number one?
Number one is Nico Williams, my boy. As I said, for those of you who remember, Spain are going to win the Euros. I said it a month before the tournament. They went on to win it. And just like that, Nico Williams is going to Arsenal.
Okay.
I don't think Barcelona can afford him. That's my take. I think he prefers Barcelona. I think Barcelona makes more sense. But they're going to have to offload multiple players in order to afford him, most likely. Not just the 58 million euro release clause that needs to be paid in full. It's not in installments, which Barcelona never does. But also they need to get rid of Rafinha. They have other players on massive wages. I just don't see a world in which Barcelona can afford Nico Williams. And I think Arsenal, it's obviously the perfect fit for Arsenal. Arteta has been known to have been tracking him for a long time. I think they come in, swoop, and get the deal done.
So I knew you were going to come in and say Arsenal. I just wanted to play devil's advocate. On my TikTok, I literally said Nico Williams to Arsenal. I think it's the perfect fit. The left side of the attack is a shambles for Arsenal. Martinelli's awful. Trossard's too inconsistent. So I think bringing in a left winger makes a ton of sense. Now, he definitely wants Barcelona.
Yes.
So in a situation to where FFP is all over the place, Barcelona not having money, like they still end up signing people. Is anything in money in world football actually real? That's where I'm like, okay, if he really wants Barca, him and Lamine seem to be best friends. They could play with each other. One, could he take a wages pay cut? Like, I think that's potentially on the table. Do you think he would ever do that?
I don't think he would take a wages pay cut. No, I mean, he's already making at 200,000 euros
Correct.
per week. I don't even think he'll take that. I think he would want more than that.
Right.
I mean,
if he's going to an Arsenal, yes, I expect him to get a pay raise. But if he really, really wanted Barcelona, you think it's out of the question for him taking a pay cut?
I mean, I actually don't think that's the biggest issue. Like, to me, they've made it very clear at Bilbao that the release clause needs to be paid in full immediately. Yep. I don't think Barcelona have enough cash.
So
they haven't had enough cash for years, I agree, and they seem to be getting it done. But that's because they're paying in these things in installments. Like, I don't know if you remember when that, like, their finances came out like a year ago, and like they've been in over $2 billion of debt for like the last 15 years.
Yeah.
But they just keep paying it off in installments. If Bilbao are insistent on getting that money up front, actually, it's been cited as a big reason why Arsenal won't sign them. But to me, that just shows that Barcelona literally cannot afford him.
Yeah, from the only other soccer podcast I listened to, they didn't get into the details of it, but they said essentially what they've been reading in the Spanish newspapers, and who knows how credible those are, that if Barcelona want to make it happen, it would be they would have to offload some players, but if they really, really wanted to get it done, they could get it done. So what's your final prediction on Nico Williams? Stays or go?
The only other reason I'm going to say why I think he actually does end up at Arsenal is because a lot of the reports coming out the last 2 or 3 days have been that Arsenal are going to sign one marquee player and then more players that are squad players, like when they signed Jorginho and Trossard, that are more bargain buys who can bolster the squad. And to me, that means we're making one big splash. And this isn't necessarily a huge splash of the size of Declan Rice, but when it's 58 million euros that has to be paid up front, it is basically the same thing. Yeah. And so that's why I think Nico Williams will be that big splash. We obviously not only need a left winger who can compete with Martinelli, Trossard, and whatnot, we need Saka coverage. So that winger needs to be able to play on both sides. Nico Williams can do that and has done that to a very high level. It just makes a lot of sense with everything I'm reading. And clearly that top target for Arsenal is not like out in the open who that is. And I think it has to be Nico Williams when all is said and done.
So one thing I read is like the Calafiori thing is similar to Sesko, to where it was kind of just made up as a rumor and they didn't do anything to kill the rumors or not kill the rumors. They just let them linger. Have you seen that the Calafiori thing is not happening?
I've seen it.
That's what I heard.
It's slowed down because apparently Basel has a 50% sell-on clause. Okay. And Bologna's like, it doesn't matter if we sell them for 50, we're only getting 25. Right. And what does that do? I've also seen a story that's basically saying Bologna doesn't want the number or the transfer to go through before they have a replacement, because if clubs hear that Bologna have gotten 50 for him, 40 for Xerxes, they have this huge transfer chest, then they're going to go spend it all.
Got it.
So I don't know. It seems like a lot of things going on. I also partially believe like Calafiore probably doesn't make sense to come in until we've at least offloaded one defender. Like,
that's
we have
what I
so
was
many
gonna say.
defenders, and we're signing 2 goalkeepers.
You're in a win now position. Not that it's a short window that Arsenal are in, but it's like you're ready to compete. Is bringing Calafiore in, who potentially doesn't start, and it's like you're signing in the summer. You have a chance to either, in theory, get Nico or Calafiore. It seems like an easy slot in at left wing for Nico over whoever, Trossard or Martinelli. Do you think last thing on him? Do you think one of them go out the other way? Not
Who?
to Martinelli or Trossard.
I think Trossard at the right price will always be available the same way that anybody at that age profile needs to be available.
Yeah.
I don't
Not
think they're
Martinelli?
shopping him. No, Martinelli's not
So what's
available.
the plan for Martinelli now? Because is he just a backup depth player?
He's the starting left winger, a player who scored 15 Premier League goals a year ago. That's what he is.
Well, that's 2 years ago now.
Well, there's one season in between. It's 1 year ago. It's not 2 seasons ago.
It's 2 seasons ago.
It was not last season. It was the season prior.
That would be 2.
Well, it's 2 once we start this season.
Right. Well, we're into the
We're talking
next
about
season.
a player who had an inconsistent year on the back of a great
So
season.
Nico
at 20
Williams
years
comes
old.
in. What's his role?
He's a starting left winger but it's not.
So Nico Williams is not a starter.
No,
today.
Nico Williams comes into Arsenal. He earns himself the starting left wing spot, but with competition.
You think day one?
If we sign
Match
Nico
one.
Williams match day 1, assuming he gets signed more than 2 weeks before match day 1, he starts at left wing match day 1.
Over Martinelli.
Yeah, or
Thank you. So Martinelli's not a starting.
He's the starting left winger unless you go out and spend 60 million euros on a
I
player.
said if you sign Nico, what is Martinelli now?
Oh.
Just a depth?
Well, here's the thing. Arsenal's biggest issue last year was the last 3 months of the season, you had every single player playing 90 minutes in the Champions League, 90 minutes in the Premier League. We can't do that.
Right.
So it's a matter of balancing the squad. So by the time you reach the peak
Okay, so
time,
who's the
everybody's
backup?
in form. In the Premier League, Nico Williams will start every single week to start this season if we sign him.
Gabriel Martinelli is a backup. and
Gabriel
like I
Martinelli will
said-
start in the Champions League. So if you consider
You
that
think that?
backup, yes. He's a
your
champ.
best
He was
ele-
excellent in the Champions League last year.
Okay, that's not true. Anyway, let's move on. We've spent way too
He
much
was
time.
excellent in the Champions League. All right, you go. Next transfer.
Next, I was going to go to Xavi Simons. So
Who's been rumored to go everywhere.
what's crazy is I think he actually perfectly fits in a midfield with PSG.
I agree.
So that's my number one. Is I think it's pretty attacking, but for Ligue 1, I think Vitinha, Zaire Emery, and Xavi Simons is like a fantastic midfield three.
It's young,
But he's
it's
not.
good.
But he's not staying there. So what I think works out really well is him to Bayer Leverkusen. I haven't seen anything. I was just thinking. So they play the system where you have essentially a 3-4-2-1 with Wirtz and someone else playing right behind him. If it was Simons and Wirtz playing behind their striker, maybe Patrick Schick, whoever it may be, I think that's a perfect fit. You play in a really progressive style of football, which he likes to play, expansive, attacking, run at you type of football. I think that would fit him perfectly, and that position where you can drift wide when you want, or you can stay centrally if you want, which I think fits his play style well, would fit perfectly in the Leverkusen system.
I totally agree. I didn't put Leverkusen down for any of these transfers because I literally haven't seen one rumor of
I
them
don't
buying.
know if they're doing business.
Like, are they they're either selling Wirtz and one of their fullbacks and
Right.
doing business this summer, or it feels like they're doing no business. Right. I'm not sure what's happening because there has been very little rumor
Literally
about
nothing.
incoming. So I didn't do Xavi Simons there, although I completely agree. Him on the opposite side of Wirtz in that extra runner system of Xabi Alonso's is perfect. I had him going to Manchester United because I think
because they're building a Dutch side?
I think number one, they love to buy Dutch players. That was a reason for sure. Number two, I think Jadon Sancho is leaving. I think all this nonsense that Ten Hag is like, oh, we're turning over a new leaf. This is to make sure that Sancho has some transfer value.
Of course.
And I think Manchester United's really good at misprofiling players, so they'll bring him in to play left wing and he'll suck for them.
Right, okay.
I genuinely think that's what will happen.
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense because they're already spending a lot of cash. This is a loan move. So they're not letting him leave permanently.
Yeah.
And so Manchester United will sign him on loan. He will do nothing for them because they'll misprofile him. And it just seems to make a lot of sense.
That's why I think it made so much sense for Leverkusen also, because in theory, Xavi Alonso leaves. So just the loan deal in where he comes in for
agree.
the year and they go and try and win another
100%.
compete in the Champions League.
That's why I don't think someone like City or Arsenal or even really Bayern. I know he's been rumored to Bayern, but it does make a lot of sense to me for Bayern to be loaning a player in. Like a team like of that caliber, why are you trying to loan a player that they're not giving you an option to buy on? Like he's just gonna have an amazing season and then you've just made his transfer value skyrocket.
The whole situation with him is confusing because once again, as we stated, I thought he would be perfect. I think he would be perfect at PSG, so I don't know why that isn't working. But I mean, Xerxes, they want to bring in De Ligt. Another Dutch player would make a ton of sense for this Man United side. I don't hate that.
The PSG thing's bizarre because apparently, I don't know if you saw the report today, but Kang-in Lee, the other attacking young midfielder they received a 70 million euro bid for him and turned it down. He's not up for sale. It didn't say from where. So like I guess that's
Saudi, right?
I would think, but I guess the idea is Kang-in Lee is the player in that profile that they want to play, and so not Xavi Simons, but that makes no sense to me personally. Simons seems to be clear. I also think Simons doesn't want to play for PSG. So
that seems to be what it is for whatever reason it is. And I just don't know if Xavi Simons and Bruno Fernandes, who both kind of want to float and do their own type of thing, really works in that system.
I agree it doesn't work, but I think Manchester United don't understand
in a team that already had their midfield overrun so many times last year, bringing in another floater in theory would not be.
Like to me, Simons plays on the left wing,
right,
and then you playing with two strike. I mean, none of it makes any sense. I don't know what that's their plan
also is. If Man United has depth anywhere, it's out on that left side between Rashford and Garnacho.
100% agree.
So. All right.
They also just bought a $72 million striker and then bought a $50 million one this year, and they're linked to Ivan Toney. So none of it makes any sense.
It's some of the worst business I've really seen in a long time. Like the glaring need is a 6.
Yeah,
unless you trust Amrabat, who had an offer,
who they also haven't officially bought.
Right.
So
yeah.
Anyways, I went Eze next.
Yeah,
you're gonna like this. To Tottenham.
I also had him to Tottenham.
I think he's the perfect player for Tottenham. He's a little bit overpriced at $60 million for a 26-year-old, but I think he's the perfect player who can fill in for Maddison, who's going to miss 10 to 18 games as he does every year in the Premier League. He can play in that 10 role, which a little bit more free roaming. He can play out on the left. He can play out on the right. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife. He's a good attacker. He's always willing to carry the ball and play in the counterattacking. That's when he's at his best. I think he fits the system a lot better than he fits at an Arsenal, even though he's very heavily rumored to be going to Arsenal. I think Tottenham's a better fit. I think the age profile and price doesn't fit in Arsenal. It fits Tottenham a lot better. So that's why I think he's going there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I had some questions about bringing in a left-sided 10 where in theory we're most strong with Maddison and Son, but like you said, it gives you so much flexibility. And him being able to play a true out-and-out left mid kind of touch line, he showed that he can play truly out on that left side for England this summer, which was very, very nice for me to see because when Maddison's operating that 10 position, you play him out on that left side. It allows Udogie, if he wants to get touchline, Udogie to come into that inside 10 pocket that he picked up a lot, or he can overlap on the outside. I think they would have a really good dynamic out on that side. And then obviously Son goes up to striker, but if Maddison's hurt, you pull Son back, move Eze into the 10. He's my dream signing. I think you're right in we are kind of in a position to where we should be buying young, which is what we're doing. Bergvall, Archie Gray, those are the right signings to where our big money signing being 26 when we're not fully ready to compete yet may not be the best move, but like as a fan who just like as much as you buy into the rebuild, like you still want to win now, bringing him in.
I also think it's one of those things where like if you're Tottenham, it's never a full rebuild. Like you're not this is not a troll, but like you're not rebuilding like, okay, we're going to be the best team in the world, the biggest team in the world. That's not realistic. Like you had good like starting point last year. Yeah. Now you add a player who's more in their prime, gives you a chance to make sure you stay in the top 4. Yep. Make sure you can compete in other trophies. Yeah. I think Eze really fits that profile.
He's the type of player who you bring in. It's like, okay, we could win a Europa League and solidify top 4 because we brought in a star.
Right. Like he's not winning you the Champions League, but maybe he can help you win an FA Cup or a Europa League. Yeah. I think we agree on that.
Yeah. Next I had on my list was Ivan Toney.
Okay.
So I have him to Arsenal.
Okay.
Because similar to what I was saying when we were talking Nico, I think you guys are in a win now position. Ivan Toney, similar to Eze, on the older side, and they're still asking for a pretty serious price for a striker of his age. I think he's 28.
Yeah, 28.
But for me, it's like it's not now or never for this Arsenal side. They have great young depth, but it's like, why not now? And Tony, as we both agreed, Havertz was solid for the German side, and he was great for Arsenal. Yes. But my thing is, I still believe that he cannot be the number 9 for a Premier League winning team. I think Ivan Toney could be the player that you bring in. Alluding to depth, you guys are going to be in a ton of competitions where Havertz can start some games, Toney can start some games, and I think that is the perfect dynamic. And that when it's late in the season, tensions are really high, margins are very small, he's the one who can dig you out a goal, and he's kind of like a Balotelli, where you need that confidence and that striker who's like, I'm going to absolutely score today, and nobody's going to stop me from doing that. And he has that confidence to do that. I think that's important for an Arsenal side over a course of a season, being deadly in the Champions League. And then, like we saw with Havertz, it comes as many good things as he did for the German side, he didn't score. So like, as much as you need him to do great things to support better players around him, which is well and good, at some point in knockout competitions or in big games, you kind of just need your striker to score, and that's why I think Ivan Toney's the perfect buy for Arsenal to play that number 9 position.
I mean, everything you said makes sense. The biggest reason it won't happen is because Arsenal said they stopped scouting the player because they don't like his mentality and stuff and his attitude. I agree in a lot of ways. He does make sense. I think he's a little bit, like, we're looking at older profiles, like 25, 26, whereas we would only buy under 24 up until this year. I think 28's a little bit more than we're willing to go. I don't think we want to sign him in any regard.
Right.
I have him going to Chelsea. I think Chelsea, as much as Nicholas Jackson kind of came on at the end of the year, we're going to talk about Havertz being inconsistent. This guy is the definition of inconsistent in front of goal. And I think Ivan Toney is the perfect age profile for how young a lot of their attackers are. Like, they have a lot of inexperience up top who guys are finding their way, aren't scoring in numbers consistently. Cole Palmer had a great season. Let's see if he can do it again. I just think this adds you one more guy who's going to score 15 goals.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing in the Euros who told you that Cole wouldn't continue playing well.
No, I agree. But Chelsea's always got turmoil going on, and that never seems to stop.
Yeah.
And but that also to me says like a guy with attitude is not a problem for them.
Yeah.
What was the rumored price you saw for Ivan Toney? Because I saw something this morning that said they may bring the price down to 25 million euros.
Whoa! I saw they were still asking for between 40 to 50 mil.
I saw something this morning that Manchester United might be interested for 25 million euros, which would be hysterical.
I'm interested for 25 million euros.
I mean, I think he'd be great for Tottenham.
I think he'd be great for anyone for 25 mil.
I agree. It depends
you wouldn't
on
take
the
him
wages.
for 25 mil?
I have no interest in him at all, to be completely honest.
That's crazy. For 25 mil? The people that are going for 25 mil these days, like Ivan Toney.
I agree that's a great price, but like I don't think that makes a lot of sense for us to bring him in, just for a whole host of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's like a killer that they could use, but I also think it makes a ton of sense for Chelsea, because if Jackson, who clearly has raw talent,
for sure,
can like grow under him and doesn't need to be,
but he's not that young. How old is Nicholas Jackson? 26.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Like Nicholas Jackson may have had his best year in the Premier League ever last year, and like he wasn't great.
Yeah,
like he may never duplicate that goal involvement season.
Yeah.
Next I have Jadon Sancho, and I feel like I shouldn't lead this one because he's your boy. You're a big believer. So maybe I'm going to let you go first unless you want me to.
Sancho, I feel, is similar to a Xavi Simons player where I think he'd be perfect in this Man United setup. We saw how good he was at right wing for Dortmund, especially in the Champions League. People thought, like, he gave the ball away a little too much and a little bit
I just don't know
wasteful.
If the end product is there with Jadon Sancho. Like, it's a lot of cool dribbles, but the end product has just not been there for like 4 years now. But that's also
with like, I think if you get him consistent football, final product is a thing that comes last in theory, with more consistency in your
for a player
setup.
that was once an 100 million euro player. Like, it can't come last. It has to come first.
No, I know, but we have to reset our thoughts on him. And I think in a vacuum, he's
24, 25?
Yeah. He's still young. Like,
yeah, no, he's young.
I think in a vacuum, he still has a lot to give, and that right wing position is a calamity for for Man United. Like, I think he should 100% start there. As we said, I think it's all smoke and mirrors to get a transfer price out of him. He's not back in the setup. He doesn't want to be back in that setup. He's made that very clear. Yeah. Nothing over the summer was going to change.
By the way, it'd be idiotic for Manchester United to keep him and not sell him at this point, because another one little more dust up or one more spell of not playing, you'll never get anything for him. Exactly. Get 25 million, 30, 40 million for him right now.
So I had him going to PSG.
Interesting.
I think that's a place where you can, similar to Dortmund, where pressure is like a little bit lower and you got the best out of them. The pressure isn't very high with PSG. The microscope isn't going to be on them. There's no Mbappe there. They're in a little bit of a reset. It's like maybe he can find his footing in Liga. He played well in the Champions League last year. He can play well in the Champions League. There's definitely competition. The whole front three for PSG is a little bit of a shit show between Barcola, Kolo Muani. I don't even know Gonzalo Ramos. Is he even there? Yeah. And then Ousmane Dembele. But I think it just seems like a no pressure. Give him. That's when he can get consistent minutes and really show his quality.
I never even thought about PSG or Ligue 1 for Jadon Sancho, but that is a perfect league for him. You have tons of space as a winger. It's transition play. Like, he can really be at his best.
When he's wasteful with it, it's not the end of the world. Like, they'll get it back and he can run at him again.
I had him going to Juventus because I think the Bundesliga is over for him. It doesn't seem like Dortmund's coming back in for him. I don't see another club being interested.
I agree.
I think Juventus just makes a lot of sense because I think Chiesa's leaving. They're going to need a right winger that's not Timothy Weah. As much as I love Weah, he's still not capable of being the best winger on a team. He could play as a second striker to Vlahovic in kind of a more inside role. A lot of flexibility. They're kind of, it seems like, a big turnover happening at Juventus. I think he could really thrive there. He's been rumored to go there multiple different times over the past year. To me, it just seems like one that would really fit. And just, they don't have a lot of depth on the wing at that club. Yeah. So to me,
and they got rid of Illing Jr.
Yeah, they got rid of Illing Jr. Like, it's just good age profile, makes sense, opportunity, probably a better league for him. We've seen, Pulisic went there and had a great season in Italy. There seems to be a good opportunity for wingers in that league and one that he might want to take up.
I wanted to fit him in to a Premier League team somewhere because I really want to watch him and, in theory, staying home. But, like, between Salah at Liverpool, I think Madueke at Chelsea is very good. You have
it just doesn't seem like anyone's even interested.
Right.
Like, maybe a year ago going into last season, it looked like it would have been like one of those Arteta saves them kind of players. Like, he comes in and buys like Havertz or somebody type of thing, but haven't seen any links.
My only thing that kind of interests me was if Diaby is leaving Aston Villa, could he potentially?
I don't think he works hard enough to play for Emery.
That's probably fair enough. All right, next.
Victor Osimhen.
Yeah.
So I have Victor Osimhen going to PSG, which I've been saying now for a little while. I think no Premier League club is interested in him at that price, at those wages, based off of what he did last year. Just was not one of the best in the world for the second half of last year.
I think he was a product of the system a little. Napoli was just a horror show.
I agree. I just think it's hard to convince at this point a Premier League club with all the new PSR and financial fair play rules to spend 80 million plus on a player whose wages are probably 350,000 euros a week. So PSG makes a lot of sense. Obviously, they have all sorts of attackers, but it's not really clear who's good and who's not.
If anyone's position is not clear, neither Kolo Muani nor Gonzalo Ramos has taken that number 9 position by any stretch.
For sure. And we've seen him already succeed in that league. That's where he got his big move from. I think he goes back, has a 30-goal season for them in Ligue 1.
At least.
Still gets to play in the Champions League. The stakes aren't as high. Yeah. He seems to be a player that's always have a little drama around him, whether it's his fault or not. It seemingly doesn't seem to be his fault, but it is what it is. Drama is drama.
Smoke.
Yeah, where there's smoke, 100%. And I just think it makes a lot of sense for him at PSG. I think they're willing to spend whatever on whoever, and Napoli seemingly want to get rid of him. So
I agree with literally everything you said, and the only thing is if anyone is going to spend that much and pay him that much, it would be Chelsea.
Yeah.
And we all agree Jackson is not the answer for them at striker. And once again, if someone is going to pay him, it might as well be Chelsea, the way that they're operating. I don't know if the new rules affect the way they're going to be doing business going forward. I mean, they have money to spend. They're going to spend it. And I think...
But how do Osimhen and Nkunku play together? Literally how? I just don't understand.
I don't know if Nkunku starts for.
They spent
for
like
this
70
team.
million euros on the guy. He spent 4 times.
Nkunku is one of my favorite players
know.
in the entire world. I think.
Just like how many more guys can they spend all this money on for guys that they still haven't even given a chance yet?
No,
Like,
I agree. But it's also like if Nkunku isn't going to stay. But Nkunku also isn't a true number 9. It's like you play them two together.
no, he's not a number 9, but in a lot of ways, he operates in the same space.
No, I know.
Osimhen isn't a target 9. He's all over the place. He's a space disruptor in the same way Nkunku is. So I just don't know how they play off of each other.
If you have them two, you definitely need to make. It's similar to like the Foden situation in England. You have to make a lot of revisions to maybe what should be the best lineup if you want to fit an Nkunku and an Osimhen together. But two players that I do, if set up correctly, I'm not going to sit here and tactically tell you how you do that because I don't have the answer. But if someone who's getting paid millions of dollars can figure out the answer to that question, I think they would be a deadly duo together. And yeah, I mean, there's not many top level strikers available, and Chelsea need a striker.
It's funny. I agree, and we'll get to Gyökeres later in this, but it doesn't seem like even with so few top level strikers available that like they're even going anywhere. Like nobody seems to be interested in spending the money on goals.
Because I kept having that same thing, like when we were talking about Leverkusen, no one's talking about him. Like since Tottenham signed Archie Gray, like I'm ingrained in Tottenham Twitter, and I've barely seen any rumors.
The links are slow, obviously, because of major tournaments.
That's what I'm saying. So then I was like, what is going on? The tournaments is slowing everything down. I expect things to heat up very fast and a lot of turnover. I then also look back, like when did the transfers happen before? In reality, we're in the position to where transfers actually start happening. They weren't happening any earlier. There were just many links and different rumors being talked about and conversations happening because there was nothing else to talk about. I still think we're in a window where a lot of big deals can
for sure. And if you're not signing the next 2 weeks, you're probably not getting up to speed to start game week 1.
Anyway, yeah.
So I agree that it'll take some time. And the window now doesn't close when the season starts. It closes at the end of August. So they went back to that rule.
Yep.
I mean, since we're here, should we just go to Gyökeres?
Yep.
So I have Victor Gyökeres staying.
Okay.
I don't see anyone paying this release clause. It seems like Sporting are only willing to let him go at that release clause. He's not worth that release clause. He's very good, but he's off the back of one good season in Europe. That season in Europe being for Sporting, not in a big league. I just don't see a team taking the risk, especially they're cracking down on these PSR rules. Like that's a big signing. That's like if it was salary capped, which it's not, but like that's like 50% of your salary cap that you're putting into a player who has not proven it really at the highest level. He had a great year. I really do like the player, but this is a player who was linked with Burnley last summer. Like, I just don't think... It seems like Arsenal are not interested at this price. Who else needs a striker? Do Chelsea really need a striker? Like, I thought Tony made sense because it was a cut deal.
Right.
Like, I just don't know who the team is that signs him, and if PSG goes get Osimhen, which I think they will do, they're not signing him. So where does he go?
So I had one that, transparently, I didn't do a ton of research on. I just thought fit-wise, it could make a ton of sense. West Ham finally moved on from Mikel Antonio at striker, and he seems like a mid-table level Premier League striker. So can West Ham afford him? Probably not.
No, I just don't think so.
But I think...
They're not even... Are they even in Europe this year?
West Ham, no. Yeah. So I was saying... I've been asking West Ham because I actually think they had good players in the squad. Like you have a Kudus, you have a Paqueta. Like... Stop having Mikel Antonio.
Well, Paqueta's going to probably maybe not
No,
playing.
Of course. No, I know. I'm saying in previous. You have Bowen, Paqueta, Kudus, like 3 behind a striker, and it's Mikel Antonio. Like, I've always felt like they were wasting an actually pretty good squad. Like, Edson Alvarez is a solid midfielder. And so, like I said, I doubt they would be able to afford him, but I think Gyökeres would be a striker that lifts West Ham to a level where it's like maybe a Villa or a Brighton of the past where you're like flirting top 8, top 7 European spots.
No, yeah. I mean, I think in theory, if the release clause was 60 million, like I think that's what they spent on Scamacca, give or take, maybe it was like
that's
45.
That's also what I was thinking about. Is the fact that they spent so much on strikers who haven't worked out, which in theory...
Allaire, they spent money on.
Yeah.
I think they're probably at this point wary of their woes.
Like, do we have proof that they've done it before and could do it again, or it's like they're just absolutely never...
I've also seen Villa are in the market for a striker, which seems crazy to me because Ollie Watkins is great. But yeah, I saw they were in the market for Tony.
I saw Chelsea were preparing a bid for
Watkins.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Go ruin another English talent. Yeah. So, I mean, long story short, it feels like neither of us really have a good landing spot. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think he doesn't.
No good one. Correct.
So, like, how does he go? The only thing I wrote down was I could see a club, if they're willing to do a loan deal with obligation to buy, I could see a club being like, We will loan him with obligation to buy, and then they, make that investment next summer.
Right.
I just don't think this summer there's
That
a
makes
club
sense.
looking to make
I also know that Serie A is signing a new TV deal.
Yeah.
So I know that had a big influx of cash for the Premier League clubs when they signed that deal. I don't know finances well enough and how much money that's really going to create for these Serie A clubs, but maybe some of them have some funds that opened up.
Just talking about fit, I thought to myself, Inter Milan was a decent fit. I know they have Thuram and Martinez, but I thought that he was a decent fit there. I actually thought Barcelona was a decent fit. Lewandowski's a foot out the door. They need a replacement striker, but again, I could see him going to Barca with a loan with obligation to buy if they have the money in a year. But I just don't see a world in which they're paying whatever. The release cost 86 million euros or something like that.
I don't know fit-wise, but Milan, Morata's not the answer for them at striker. I know they brought him in. Maybe he goes to AC Milan. They have a good squad. If they sell Leao goes out, he can come in. Yeah.
All right. Rodrigo?
Yeah, there's no links to Rodrigo leaving, and he's kind of have said that he wants to stay, but I would say I personally think he's going to leave within the next couple of years. There's too much talent. I think he's way too good. I'm a huge, huge fan of Rodrigo, and I think he's too good to be a third option. If Endrick comes on the way people think he is, potentially fourth option, and then he's not even a starter in this Real Madrid team. And it's I can go be the star somewhere, get consistent, first name on the team sheets type of star. Whereas Vinny he doesn't get pens, he doesn't get free kicks, he doesn't get anything in this Real Madrid setup. And these big time athletes, you have to be a bit egotistical to get to the place you are as an athlete in the heights that you've reached anyways. So that's always going to be in the back of your mind. So I had Rodrigo just being a replacement for Mohamed Salah for Liverpool.
I could see that.
I just think that's a huge club across the world. Obviously, if they sell, this is a contingent. Salah goes out, he comes in. Yes. But if Salah goes out, they are going to make a ton of money on that deal, which would then free up, what is he, 130 mil player?
110 probably, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to need funds, but that's where I thought the best fit.
I think in theory that makes sense. I just think that even if Liverpool were to get 80 million for Salah, they're not the kind of club that splashes it.
Yeah.
I have Rodrigo going to Manchester City.
Wow, that would be insane.
I think Alvarez seems to be a foot out the door,
100%.
Potentially Atletico Madrid. So then you need to bring an attacker in. Man City's good for one massive splash a year. They are. They haven't been linked to anybody real yet. They said no Dani Olmo. They said no. Paqueta's obviously dead. Bruno Guimaraes, they've made it clear they're not going to go for. That release clause expired. I think they just go get Rodrigo. He can play on either wing. Doku and Foden like to be on whatever wings they like to be on.
Would be insane for them.
He can play as a center forward. He's done it for Brazil. 100%. He's done it for Real Madrid. So if Hala needs a rest, I think Rodrigo sneaky goes. That's the one club where because he said he doesn't want to leave Real Madrid. To me, that's the one club that comes knocking, and you're like, okay, this is the closest thing.
The only reason I feel like Pep's made it pretty clear he's leaving after next season. If he had said, if there was no question he was staying for 3 years, I would agree that would be number one landing spot.
But it's not like Manchester City's not getting Zidane as the next manager, or
but
you know what I'm saying.
But there's also no. There's a small group of managers who are that top tier, and there's no guarantee that when Pep leaves, they'll replace
him. If Pep leaves, you don't think Xabi Alonso maybe is the next Manchester City manager?
I think he's waiting for Madrid.
I agree, but let's say Carlo Ancelotti's not going anywhere. You don't think Xabi Alonso's okay, I'll take the biggest job in the world? Manchester City is arguably the biggest job in the world. It is. Especially after Pep leaves. Can you prove that? Can you keep Manchester City where they are right now? Because they have no history that anyone cares about. Correct. So either you keep them where they are right now, or it's potential they fall off the face of the earth in ways. Not fall off the face of the earth, but without Pep, they are going back to the Man City where it was they either win the league or come in third or fourth, not the team that literally wins the league by 10 points every year.
Yeah, no, I love Rodrigo to Man City. I think that would they haven't made. It's hilarious that I'm going to say this. They haven't made the signing, although they spent so much on Doku and
Vardiol was $100 million. They signed Holland the year prior.
I'm just saying last year
they've made the sign. They spent $100 on Ruben Diaz or whatever.
No, I just don't it's fun. I acknowledge how funny it is that I don't consider Vardiol to be the signing, but maybe they're due for one.
Vardiol was a big signing. No, I know. After his World Cup, everybody was this guy could be the best center back in the world.
Yeah.
All right, Dani Olmo.
Yeah.
This seems to one where the agents are pushing it out there, like, here's his release clause, and everyone's like, no, I'm not interested.
So I didn't see that Man City said no to him.
Yeah.
I had Danny Olmo to Man City making the most sense because they were in for Paquetá, who obviously isn't going in there. So it's that kind of pseudo De Bruyne replacement, pseudo like just backup
second
number
striker
10,
midfield
yeah.
situation. Yeah.
So I thought he made a ton of sense. He's obviously Spanish. And I think off of his really good form, he's not like a super young player to invest like and build a squad around, but he is like in theory in the prime of his career. He goes into Man City, who's competing as we speak, will continue to compete, and it kind of felt like a perfect fit to where now KDB's getting to the point where he really needs to be on the bench for a few games.
I mean, he may be gone. Like, they're pretty heavy links that he may be gone this year. I don't think he will. Yeah.
So I wasn't saying
I don't
to
think he
replace
will, but
KDB.
I'm just saying.
I was just saying to rotate. I
No,
think
for sure. I mean,
he could
KDB's
be
been
good.
missing 20 matches a year at this point.
And like against certain teams, you could play a Rodri, Danny Olmo, KDB if you wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. I don't dislike that. I thought that made a lot of sense until the reports that City say they're not in for him.
Yeah.
I had Danny Olmo to Liverpool. I think they will bring in one big attacker because I do think either Salah gets phased out or leaves this year. I mean, he had a great first half of the year, but kind of slowed down as Liverpool 100%. Slowed down. Arne Slot likes to play with like double tens. So Olmo and Szoboszlai kind of work as double tens. And I think this is the kind of player, like, I think Szoboszlai was a release clause around this type too, where like Liverpool don't like to spend massive, but like this is in their wheelhouse. Yeah. It's not a heavy negotiation. It's here's the release clause, pay it. Coming off a big summer, good age profile. I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think it necessarily will happen, but I think Danny Olmo's agents are clearly pushing that this release clause expires. I think it's the end of July.
Yeah. And
so they want to get a deal done. If there needs to be a deal done, to me, Liverpool makes the most sense.
I mean, it's like the Hawk Tua girl. Like you try and make as much noise while you're hot.
You just compared Danny Olmo to the Hawk Tua girl?
I mean, for his agent, it's like it's his job.
We're going to need to clip that and tweet that at Danny Olmo.
No, I love that. Like the agent's doing his job. This is as hot as Danny Olmo is it essentially ever going to be in his career.
I mean, so every time they are on the world stage, he's great for Spain, and it feels like his name's up, and then I don't see a play of his for 2 years.
He's good at RB Leipzig. He's been injured and in and out, and they rotate a lot. So, yeah, Danny Olmo is Hawk Tua, and they're trying to get the best deal they can while they're hot before they die off.
Sounds good.
And then final is Bruno Guimaraes.
Where you got him going? I'll go first. I'm going to Manchester United. Manchester United.
Literally no fucking shot.
Manchester United absolutely need a 6.
He could also be the best signing of the summer.
He could be a double pivot with Manu. I think those are perfect together as a double pivot. I think it's everything Manchester United have done wrong, doing right.
I literally
spend a little bit more and get the right age profile, get the right Premier League proven player, get a player that Manchester City have been interested in, Arsenal have been interested. If those clubs are interested, that's a player you want. Go out and spend the money on that instead of signing fucking De Ligt and Branthwaite for $160 million combined. Like, go get Bruno G. That shores up your midfield. Then you sign, if you can get Lenny Yoro, it doesn't seem like it's happening, but you get him, or you get Branthwaite, or you get De Ligt. Lissandro Martinez, you trust. I don't think he's the best in the world, but he's good enough. You get someone to put next to him with Bruno G in front, Kobe Manu. You're building a team. You're not winning this year. Get Bruno G right now while he's available for a decent price. He's still young. Done.
I literally could not agree more. Him and Kobe would be amazing. That is literally number one. What they need is a 6/center back, and they're signing strikers and other things that they don't need. But I just think there's literally
no I agree. It's not going to happen. I'm just saying they should do it.
No, that's the perfect fit. It would be the smart buy. It would be the smart thing to do. You sell Sancho, you bring in some funds, you bring in Bruno G. And they finally made a good signing, and they're on the verge of becoming a real club. But I have them going to PSG. If PSG doesn't do the Osimhen thing or bring in a big name, like they have Mbappe, like they're going to make a big signing this summer. They have money to spend, and they'll spend it.
You don't have to worry about that,
right? And I think he would be perfect for that team. I think that's the reason they tried to bring in Ugarte. They saw that if they want to compete in the Champions League, they they need structure in their midfield. Ugarte didn't provide that to them, and Ugarte is actually being linked to Manchester United, which will make a ton of sense for Bruno G to then successfully go and play that profile that they were trying to bring in with Ugarte. And if they trust the Barcola, Colomwani, Ousmane Dembele front three, which I think is more than good enough to win Ligue 1 and maybe win you a couple. I don't think it wins you the Champions League. But if they trust that front three, want to give it time with no Mbappe and allow them to thrive together, you have money to spend elsewhere where I think, how much is Bruno G going for? Like 80 to 90?
Yeah, maybe 100.
Yeah. So in the Premier League, he'll be probably 100. If PSG, it'll be like around.
And he's also been a player who's been great in Ligue 1 already, Bruno G. He was great for Lyon. So.
And more, I just think, with Newcastle's current state, I don't, like...
Well, also, Eddie Howe's heavily linked to this England job. Eddie Howe, really? Yes. If Eddie Howe, even if it's not like for this year, which I think it would have to be with the World Cup, if Eddie Howe leaves, I think guys like Isak and Bruno G, these guys are all...
So that's what I was going to say, is I think Isak... I was saying there's a chance Isak and Bruno G, who are, I think, top 5 at their position across the world in the prime of their careers, what are they staying at Newcastle for right now? Like, I thought there was a chance they would lose both of them. If they find a way to get through this summer without losing either of them, I would be shocked. And if Isak's not going, I think it'll be Bruno G. He has the potential to be like one of the best midfielders in the world. And playing at a Newcastle is not competing for anything. Not playing in the Champions League just makes no sense for me. And I think going to PSG, you're right. As much as it's a Farmers League, you are playing on the top stage.
No, for sure. I mean, I definitely could see Bruno G going to PSG. Them and Manchester United seem to be the two clubs that make the most sense. I think it made a lot of sense for Arsenal or City because I think both are looking for one more player to sit next to their best six, and give them a little more freedom. But I agree that neither of them are going to spend the money. So PSG makes sense.
I would love him to come to Tottenham
Well, that's not happening.
In a fairy tale world.
Yeah.
We could use... As well as Basuma started.
He's the opposite of your TikTok midfield that you're brewing over there.
True. He would complement those TikTokers perfectly.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want to just throw around? Any names you're excited about looking at?
What am I excited? I'm excited for deals to get going because we really saw the delay.
It's been slow as shit.
It's been
with
slow,
the Euros.
and we've been distracted, and I haven't been paying. No one's been paying attention.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So usually at the end of one of these major tournaments, there's one player who's skyrocketed. It probably would have been Nico Williams or Danny Olmo, but they both have release clauses, so it's not them. Who's a player for you that you saw that you weren't necessarily all in on going into the Euros or even necessarily knew too much about, who was like, okay, this is a player that should make a big time move?
It's a good question. I'm going through the players. All right, my first thing off the cuff is get Conte out of Saudi Arabia.
He's not leaving.
He's not, but it's a shame that we don't get to watch him anymore because he's still brilliant and we just forgot about it. The name of the Switzerland forward is escaping me.
Ndiaye? That one?
Yeah, that's not his name though.
No, it's not his name. God damn it! Too many names in my head.
Yeah,
right now.
That's who I thought he was really good.
Yeah, he's really good.
I've never heard of him before. I don't know how old he is. He looks relatively young. And I think he could, I'm not even entirely sure what position he plays entirely. He seemed pretty versatile.
I'll tell you his name right now.
Because originally I thought he was a wingback.
Ndoye.
Yeah, Ndoye.
Yeah, he's
Dan Ndoye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He plays for Bologna.
How old is he?
He's 23. I think Bologna have already sold a lot of their players and they're in the Champions League, if Calafiori's going.
So Dan Ndoye was the first name that came to my head. I was really impressed with him.
I'm going to go Mikau Tadze, who isn't actually going.
The deal.
No, it's off.
It's off?
Not going to Monaco anymore.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yes.
Wow.
As of yesterday, he's not going to Monaco anymore. I think he thinks he can go to a bigger club.
Really?
I think he thinks there's bigger offers out there. He is a very, very good player and not just a goal scorer. I was thoroughly impressed with his link-up play throughout the entire tournament.
Yeah, I thought it was done.
Physically strong, good player.
Didn't it get a here we go?
It got a full here we go. Wow. I think he even
Fabrizio
flew for the medical. Yeah.
Wow.
He saw those Balogun highlights from Copa and he's like, I ain't going to compete with that.
Interestingly enough, where is Kvaratskhelia going? Is he going to leave or is he staying?
Napoli seems to not want to sell him, but Napoli always where he's not for sale and then the guy gets sold. Right. That's their big thing.
Everything's smoke and mirrors.
Especially out of Italy. You can't trust anything out of Italy. Those journalists are frauds. I don't think Kvara leaves because, again, it's another player. Like, maybe I'm just like getting too caught up in the fact that it was Euros and I'm not seeing a lot of rumors, but clubs don't seem to be spending the way they were the last few years. I think the market is resetting a little bit.
I don't think it is. It may be having a little regression to the mean.
See, like Kvara to me seems like the perfect Manchester United signing where they're overpaying for a guy who's overhyped.
No, but that's an actual good player.
He's a good player. He's not an 100 million euro player. He's not.
Is that what they're asking for?
Like 80? He's not an 80 million euro player. He's not.
I mean,
would you rather have Olmo or Kvara?
Kvara.
Really? Like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that.
Kvara.
Price wise, I'm not sure about that.
Olmo playing in that Spain side was fantastic, and I think he's a good player, but maybe a tad bit product of the system. I mean, he's playing with Lamine and Nico out on the wings.
I understand.
Supported by
I'm saying
luxury.
For 60 million and probably like 150K wages instead of 80 million, 250, I'm probably taking Danny Olmo.
Once again, it matters, but I'm also not paying their paycheck. So if you want
I agree, but if the PSR rules are really going to be this strict, like the money actually becomes more of a salary cap.
It does matter, but like we've talked about this. I hate when people are like, what an overpay. Like,
no, I agree.
And it's like, if you get me a good player and he's 20 mil, probably more than market value, he's going to change my team.
That's totally fair.
Why the fuck do I care?
No, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
To me, it's more so if there's a better market value out there. That's when it's an issue.
Honestly, my biggest takeaway, and this is super biased, but he was so good. I think Balogun should get a move somewhere and like just switch up. Like, clearly it didn't work for him at Monaco. He's splitting time with Ben Yedder. I originally thought they were bringing Mkhitaryan.
I mean, how old's Ben Yedder? How much longer is Ben Yedder going to be?
I don't know. Forever.
I mean, Ben Yedder was.
People were probably.
Ben Yedder's like at least 34.
Jovic and Okafor were probably saying the same thing at AC Milan, and Giroud was still the starting striker every single year. So if they can. Like strikers, as we've seen, like Ronaldo still, like striker of any position, striker and center back, can do it.
I think Balogun had such a good year prior in Ligue 1 that I think it makes sense for him to stay at Monaco one more year, have a 20-goal season, then make his big move.
I want him to be the replacement at
Tottenham.
Sure, Milan.
I know. I agree with that. I mean, I think that could be a move. I think Milan signed their one attacker. Unless Leao leaves, I don't see them going for another one. I think they have other issues to worry about. They need to bring a center back in.
Well, later next week, we will be discussing every U.S. men's national team player and where we think they should go if they're on the move in the summer. So if you've enjoyed this, transfers around the world, hit the subscribe button because we'll be doing transfers not in the United States, but of the United States men's national team players.
McKennie, Yunus Musa potentially, Balogun, as we just started talking about. We gave you a little preview on
Anthony, I've seen a couple things.
For sure.
So yeah, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you've enjoyed, and comment down below if there's anyone you want us to talk about or who you think is on the move this summer and where you think they're going. And we will see you next time.
Peace.